Welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo. This week, a remastered blast from the past with Doom 3 BFG Edition.
And we'll paint our way through the storybook world of the Unfinished Swan.
Plus, Dave Callan returns and he's brought his dancing shoes with him.
Well, that spells trouble. But first, can you guess the game for this week? Bud has already left for the news because we're being so efficient. He's gone. He's out of here.
Good game.
3 ex-Ubisoft developers have founded a new independent studio in Montreal called Red Barrels. The team has an impressive portfolio between them, having held senior creative roles on Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, Assassin's Creed, Uncharted: Drake's Fortune, and Splinter Cell: Conviction. A survival horror game called Outlast will be the studio's first project. Starhawk developer Lightbox Interactive has laid off 24 staff and ended their working agreement with Sony. The layoffs come as the studio plans to move away from traditional console development and focus instead on mobile game development. Sony confirmed that Starhawk and Warhawk will continue to be supported by their Santa Monica studio. Development on crowdfunded game Haunts has halted following the departure of the game's programmers. The title had successfully raised almost $30,000 in crowd-sourced funds and was almost finished. However, the 2 programmers from the 4-man studio both accepted other jobs, leaving the game unfinished with no programmers to fix the remaining bugs. Studio head Rick Dakin has asked backers to be patient, but has offered refunds out of his own pocket. So far, only $30 has been refunded. Social games publisher Zynga has announced significant layoffs, closed down 1 studio, and ceased production on 13 upcoming games. 100 workers, or approximately 5% of the publisher's workforce, was let go from their Austin studio, while their Boston studio was shut down completely.
Good game.
Rugby League is a brutal game played by hard men. It's about strength, speed, and gritty determination, and pushing through the pain to victory.
In the past, Rugby League games have failed to capture the essence of the sport, and now Rugby League Live 2 continues that trend.
Yes, welcome to 2003.
No. What was he thinking?
He's beaten 1! He's beaten 2!
As the great Elvis Presley once said, home is where the heart is.
Not easy on the eyes, is it?
Coming from something like 2K13 and its beautiful graphics to this is a bit jarring. However, there have been some improvements with this Rugby League Live, and mainly around the controls.
Yes, well, let's look at attack and defense first. To attack, you pass with the left and right bumper buttons. Holding one of these buttons down plus a modifier button will send a cut pass to a wide receiver. For hit-ups, using the right thumbstick will help you fend and break tackles, while sprint is assigned to the right trigger. The A button was used for both these functions in the previous game, which was a bit awkward, so the change is welcome.
Yeah, and it just feels more natural now. In defense, you have 3 tackle options. A standard round-the-legs tackle, a dive tackle for desperate measures, and a hard-hitting ball-and-all tackle, which can result in knock-ons or head-high tackles.
Comes up with a high tackle.
Sloppy tackle.
Though for the most part, the defense just handles itself. In many situations, it's just easier to select the player furthest away and then let the AI do the work for you. Tackle minions away!
Slater, Proctor, and he gets a face full of turf for his troubles.
There's also a handy new training mode to help you get your head around this control system. Beginners will definitely want to hone their kicking skills before heading into a match. While you scramble to get a kick in on the 5th tackle, you don't want to be fumbling with the buttons.
Last tackle play was a little disappointing.
Agreed. And once you've sharpened your skills offline, it's time to go online, of course. So we found quite a few matches with decent connections, but there are already a few exploits that people are using.
Surprises us all with a short kick. And they've managed to get to the ball. Dashes through the line. He's tackled there, but he's made good ground.
This kickoff and recover method is pretty much unbeatable once perfected, and it's things like that just ruin the sportsmanship of a match, Hex.
Yes, but the game's biggest fumble is its painfully stilted gameplay. I mean, the animations are so rigid, and nothing looks remotely natural. Even the cheerleaders are terrifying.
And on so many occasions, my outside backs would overrun the play, making it impossible to pass out wide.
Flood on defence.
And that's particularly frustrating when you have a 1 or 2 man overlap and end up throwing a forward pass because of lousy AI.
I think the most interesting way to play is through the game's career mode, which is actually new to this series. It adds an extra layer of strategy. Sponsorship and bonuses affect how much money you can spend on training your team, and injuries can make matches a little tougher by having to play without your stars. Every match feels a little bit more important, and you start to care a bit more about the results.
Yeah, I am glad it's there, Hex, but essentially it just adds 4 button presses in between each match, and after a few rounds I abandon it. It just doesn't have the depth of, say, FIFA's career modes. There is some fan service here, though. You can choose a heritage jersey for your team, and if you squint hard enough, you can make out the player likenesses.
A great result.
Still, I find it hard to believe that even the most die-hard of Rugby League fans will get a lasting enjoyment out of this game.
It is good that Australian devs are making games for Australian audiences, though. And to be fair, I mean, at least the sequel shows that they're headed in the right direction. There is potential there, but it does have a long way to go before you can consider this a solid sporting game. So I'm giving it 4.5 out of 10.
I'm giving it 3.5. But now it's time for some tiny power.
Please have faith in me, guys. I think I'm really onto something.
You better be, because my integrity is at stake. Spring rolls?
I've got a coding question. I need to know what happens if you try and punch your daughter.
Nothing. Just have no reaction. Never any spring rolls.
Well, that'll seem a bit odd, won't it?
We can't make a game where you punch 12-year-old girls in the face. Excuse me, spring rolls?
It's not like coins will pop out if you do. I mean, obviously it'll have devastating narrative consequences.
Spring rolls?
But if we don't let the player make bad choices, there won't be any satisfaction when they make good ones.
So what if a player wants to a dog? Do we code that in too?
Yes!
No, but if a character can punch, it's not up to us to tell them who they can and can't punch.
Fine, call a daughter puncher 3. I don't care. It's a shit game and it's going to ruin us.
Spring rolls!
I wanted to make Bosom of Evil, and goddamn it, Aaron, you fucking bogan, stop eating all the spring rolls! Megan!
Spring roll!
Good game.
When Doom 3 came out, it was already ahead of its time visually. Impressive lighting and detailed characters made it an atmospheric romp, even though it didn't really hold up to the originals on the gameplay front. BFG Edition comes with Doom 1 and Doom 2 and a remastered version of Doom 3 and its expansion pack, also some new levels, but is it still fun to play after all these years? Yes, mostly.
Welcome to Mars, Marine. Please report to your security chief for all duty-related concerns. Safety is integral to all operations. Handle firearms with extreme caution. Never discharge weapons in an area that may compromise the installation's structural integrity. Remembering these procedures is paramount to your success here on Mars.
If you've never played Doom 3 before, it's the usual Mars gone wrong, unleashing hell story. There's nothing quite like a dark, creepy Mars research facility where humans are poking where they don't belong as their barjo.
The devil is real. I know. He built his case.
I'm getting abnormal readings here.
It's the perfect setting for evil to be discovered and take over the minds and souls of everyone on the planet. I forgot how stressful and suspenseful the start of this game is, Barjo.
Yeah, it's such a great setup, isn't it? And I'll just happily play the crap out of anything set on Mars, in general anyway. When I look back on Doom 3 though, I don't really have that nostalgic feel, and I think it's because the game just ran like a dog on my PC, and also it was so dark that was very frustrating. In fact, it was so dark that modders quickly added a torch to many of the weapons called the duct tape mod, and it was hugely popular at the time.
Well, BFG Edition comes with a shoulder lamp as standard, so that problem is solved. And in fact, surprisingly, the game held up quite well in general. Gameplay echoes days of old, lots of dodging fireballs and lots of monsters in a closet.
Yes, in fact, you start to develop a bit of a phobia of opening doors playing this game because almost every second door has some enemy leaping out at you. There's also lots of sandwich gameplay.
What's sandwich gameplay?
It's a term I just made up where you walk into a room and enemies spawn on either side of you and then they sandwich you in for a bit of stressful situation.
Okay.
Even though it could be argued that that whole dodging twitch gameplay was already starting to feel a bit old when Doom 3 came out, I still had quite a lot of fun with it this time around, Hex, and it still made me jump now and then too.
It is possible to get lost now and then, but mostly you'll always have a sense of where to go in these levels due to thoughtful lighting and enemies spawning in areas to draw your attention. And you know, I mean, it makes sense that this new Marine doesn't know the complex that well anyway.
Yeah, and one thing I never appreciated about the level design back when I first played it was how it dumps you into a door or an area that you need to access once you've got the key. It's a bit like finding that door which leads you out in a Skyrim dungeon or a mission in Rage, for example, but I think it's much more subtle here.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing to play a game that doesn't have objective markers constantly pointing your way all the time. That's so rare these days as well. I feel like the art and design of these locations never got the glory it deserved, and I think that's because even though visually it's so far ahead of its predecessors, this game just didn't have the impact of Doom 1 and 2. But the way the story is told around you and the way you interact with computer screens is just wonderful.
Yeah, and I loved all the PDAs you find about the place, which give you all that backstory, especially as the first PDA references, you know, everything's kind of going all right, a few problems, and the next one is totally messed up.
There is no cause for alarm, but I am requesting we rotate squads every 90 days.
Our initial testing on the primary alignment module indicated excessive stress fracturing.
The situation here in Sector 1 is bad. Shortly after getting shut.
Plus they give you those handy codes to get into the supply lockers. This remaster has nicer textures and you can push it into a good resolution on PC, but you might have to go into your video card's software and force some of the settings to get it to work like we had to. There is also a ton of motion blur, and you'll want to turn that off pretty quick unless you like vomiting on your keyboard. The game is also optimized for 3D if you're into that kind of thing, but what we really want to see is the Oculus Rift virtual reality headset with it, which id founder John Carmack demoed behind closed doors at E3 this year.
What I've got now is, I honestly think the best VR demo probably the world's ever seen.
I just want virtual reality to be something that exists in our lifetime, Barjo. I just really want that.
Me too. The multiplayer is just as forgettable as it was when Doom 3 came out.
Terrible.
But I had a good time with this remaster, Hex. It's the best version of Doom 3 available.
Those terrifying audio cues are one of my fondest memories from the entire Doom franchise, and it's as gripping as ever here. That said, I'm not sure out of all the games out there that Doom 3 really needed to be remastered, but they've done a really good job, so I'm giving it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I'm gonna give it 8. Now Hex, when I say beards and dancing, what do you think of?
Oh, there was this terrifying Christmas show I saw when you were Santa Claus and they were doing this weird routine.
No, Dave Callan's gonna do some dancing games.
Oh!
Dave Callan, everyone.
Good game.
This month, a whole bunch of new dance games have hit the shelf. Just Dance and Dance Central return to battle for supremacy.
To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal, light up a stage and wax a chump like a candle. Damn.
And an outsider in the form of Dance Star Party Hits from the makers of SingStar. Also, for the under 10 set and fully grown Disney fans, Just Dance Disney.
But then one day I learned a word to cite me I can nose.
The biggest word you've ever heard, and this is how it goes. Oh, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious, if you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
And my verdict is, they all fail because there is no Gangnam Style. At least not yet. The Just Dance for downloadable content is coming soon.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style.
If you played the games before, you'll know it's like comparing an arcade racer to a simulation. Dance Central is like Forza, whereas Just Dance is like Mario Kart. And Dance Star Party Hits is like a not good thing I don't like very much.
I mean, you're so shy, and I'm loving your tie. You're like slicker than the guy with the thing on his eye. Oh.
Just Dance is very forgiving, basically lets you do what you want and is very encouraging. Dance Central highlights limbs that are out of place in red and is very strict. It's almost like the games are playing good cop, bad cop with you. One's going, hey, that's great, just do the best you can, you're going so well. The other one's going, do it again, your little finger was out of place and what have you been eating, fatty? Coffee and celery for you for a week. The games also now make you level up, because that's what dance games needed, level grinding for unlockables. The grinding is so obvious, I'm surprised they didn't make you dance against spiders in sewers. Just Dance 4 even introduces poker machine tricks to keep you playing. I'm happy releasing endorphins while dancing. I don't need to release dopamine via prizes as well. I have Borderlands 2 for that. Having said that, though, one of the best unlockables in Just Dance 4 is the Rihanna Umbrella alternate choreography with an umbrella. Compare the two. To hold an umbrella, but it is good fun. Just don't whack each other in the head or a dog. Dance Central 3 has a story mode this time.
Flag verified. Welcome to the party.
I was skeptical when it started, as it casts you as a new agent in a Men in Black style agency.
Let's see what you got.
Where you do dance moves all day for some reason.
Welcome to Dance Central Intelligence, the city's first and last line of defense against dance crimes.
I like my beats fast and my bass down low.
Oh, right. Well done for trying to put a little plot in. But then the game catapults you back in time to the 70s, and you have to dance your way through the decades right back to the modern era, and I changed my mind, because that is awesome. Just Dance 4 has no plot, you simply just dance, as per the title. I found in the end the plot of Dance Central 3 works really well. You dance to 4 songs per decade, then unlock a special dance craze. And doing well in that is what transports you through to the next decade. And the dance crazes are amazing. The 70s has the hustle. The 80s has the electric slide. And easily the daggiest thing in an otherwise very cool game, the 90s has the Macarena. It can get frustrating though. I got stuck in the 80s for days because I couldn't find the special moves to unlock the dance craze.
If we can't lock onto your time signature, you could get stranded in the time stream.
And you don't want to be stuck in the 80s for too long. I was once stuck in the 80s for 10 years as a kid, IRL. The soundtracks are hugely different. Dance Central is still focused on recent chart music, but thanks to the time travel angle, there are some awesome tracks from the past which add more fun. The 80s is exclusively obscure hip-hop. It would have been good to have some other 80s genres in there, like new wave pop or hair metal, which Just Dance has. I call this boyfriend mode, as boyfriends who don't dance will have fun with this, especially if they have mullets and like wrestling. The Just Dance soundtrack is geared towards party play and casts the net wide with the song choices. There's some beautifully obscure stuff on here, like B-52s and They Might Be Giants, along with chart favourites like Carly Rae Jepsen and One Direction. Both games tend to take photos and videos which you can then share on social media, which I call put some pants on and tidy the house mode. You can switch this off, however, if you hate tidying up or hate wearing pants. Speaking of not putting pants on, you can now do cardio without going to the gym. Just Dance and Dance Central both have fitness modes, and I preferred the Just Dance's sweat mode, which has a special warm-up and cool-down in a spaceship. Both have custom soundtrack options to put all your favorite tunes and dances in. Another strength of Dance Central is you can import all the tracks from Dance Central 1 and 2, so you can have a massive soundtrack. Unfortunately, you have to pay 400 Microsoft points per game to do this, which I think is an unnecessary cost. Dance Central also tries to be a bit too cool sometimes. The characters say really weird stuff.
Now that's what time it is, okay?
What the hell does that even mean? I think that's what happens when computer programmers try to talk street. Dance Central has a party mode which just runs through random songs and adjusts its difficulty level on the fly, which is awesome to leave on in the background during a party. The usual Connect restrictions apply. You need a heap of space, ideally an aircraft hangar. Connect also sometimes loses its ability to register players, and you have to stand there with your arm in the air waving like a really crap Jedi trying to use the Force. Dance Central 3 is much more fun than the first two. Just Dance 4 is the best version yet, and Dance Star Party Hits is an imitator, not an innovator, while Just Dance Disney is perfect for under 10s. I'm giving Dance Central 3 9 rubber chickens, Just Dance 4 9 rubber chickens, Dance Star Party Hits 5 rubber chickens, and Just Dance Disney 7.
I love Pong. I mean, I'm quite old, so I played Pong back when it was new on various sort of wooden-sided, custom consoles back in the day. But I think one of the games that really first drew me in and made me realize that there could be story and there could be depth and meaning was Raiders of the Lost Ark on the Atari 2600. It kind of ignores the movie story. It has some of the same names, but you had to do so many different things, and you really felt like you were going on an adventure, and you felt like you were exploring a world. And that was one of the things that first drew me to Halo, was the ability to literally put yourself in the shoes of a different character and go and live out their experiences.
The Unfinished Swan is one of those magical and unique titles that tries something new and succeeds brilliantly. It's a small downloadable game that puts you in the first-person perspective of a small boy, thrown headfirst into a story searching for the missing swan in a painting by his mother.
He took his mother's silver paintbrush and followed the footprints into a little door he hadn't seen before.
After a few moments of staring into nothingness, you realise that the game has already begun. A quick test of the buttons and you discover that you have nothing but an arsenal of inky black paint at your disposal. And the more you use it, the more you reveal of the landscape around you.
It's a remarkable effect, isn't it? And you have to be quite calculated with how you apply the paint. You sort of need to create a combination of positive and negative space, because the more you cover things with black paint, the blacker everything gets, and you'll just make it equally difficult to discern one shape from the next. It truly creates a sense of wonder, especially as you travel through the environment and look back on the path you've revealed.
Yeah, it's a great discovery process. But just when my eyes were starting to strain a little bit against the contrast of black and white, and I was thinking, is this going to be the whole game? I passed into the next chapter. And each chapter of this game adds a new way for you to interact with the environment. Different materials for you to use, different aspects of the environment that have been shaded or coloured. And it's all based around a fairy tale you seem to be a part of.
The king was so frustrated with the messy, demanding people of his kingdom that he decided to start over.
It's narrated in such a way that suggests it's aimed at children, but the mechanics are so original and interesting that it's worth an exploration from a gamer of any age. The gameplay isn't particularly challenging, and while there are several chapters to explore, it's relatively short. But the experience is mysterious and imaginative, and as each new mechanic is revealed to you, you have those little "oh" moments.
The game's strength is in its simplicity, putting a focus on the limited tools you have to explore your environment, and following the trail of that ever-elusive swan, all while slowly unravelling the narrative.
The queen spent her nights painting creatures of the forest, though she never finished a single one. 5 months went by before the king noticed she was pregnant.
Often you'll find the way through quite clear, but there is reward in exploring every little nook and cranny to find out more about this strange kingdom.
Further reward for exploration comes in the form of finding balloons, and these act as a kind of currency to purchase little bonuses. Things like a balloon finding radar, or a hose feature that lets you send your paint or water shooting out at a rapid speed.
There's a beautiful orchestral score to accompany your adventure too. Some environments will take you to great heights, and others will see you using water to help gain access to the next area. They're simple puzzles that utilise the game's focus on shape and colour. Or lack of colour.
There were a few moments where I was a bit stumped on where to go next, so it's not all a leisurely walk in the park, which is good. But the real excitement for me came in the later half of the game, when you have to start dealing with the danger that darkness brings. The only way to survive is to stay within close proximity of a little glowing ball that you have to push down a stream, and you're running along beside it and there's glowing eyes in the darkness. I
quite like the sections where you have to use shapes to build structures and platforms to navigate your way out of areas. But some of these sections felt a little out of place, like they didn't gel with the theme of the game and were a bit confused, I thought.
Confused or unfinished? Equally, the theme behind it all, or the meaning, seems deliberately ambiguous. And I know these journeys are often left open to your own interpretation. But I agree, there are a lot of different mechanics in this game that are all used in very different ways, and it often seems as though they've just randomly slotted something in as an excuse to use it without really thinking it through. It's hard to review games like this, isn't it? Because it's kind of like giving your opinion on a piece of art, which even more so than games can be so subjective. We actually spoke to Max Geiger, a producer on the game, who spoke about that sense of wonder and exploration and the meaning behind it all.
One of the main visual inspirations for the game is paintings of Escher, but not the illusions that he did, but just his Mediterranean landscapes. It's a sense of wonder. I mean, that's really what we're trying to hit on, is that there's a mysterious world out there, and that exploration is the way you're going to make your way through this world, and it's how you're going to uncover the secrets of this world. And so we really hope that people walk away from this game and they have a sense of awe, and they're wondering not just about what they've seen, but what it means in their own lives.
Well, in the end, I think the joy you get from exploring these ideas far outweigh most criticisms, and there is PlayStation Move support as well, which is quite appropriate considering the painting mechanic, although I did find it more accurate with the controller.
Yeah, me too.
Well, what are you giving it, Hex?
Well, like other downloadable gameplay experiences, let's call them, it has all the right ingredients to keep you involved from start to finish. A sense of wonder, a sense of mystery, and a unique gameplay concept. However you choose to interpret the game's theme or meaning, I think it's an experience that you'll really enjoy. So I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I'm giving it 7.5 as well.
Good game.
So did you guess the game for this week?
Mixing it up.
Old school. It was Haunted House for the Atari 2600. Released in 1982, you played as a set of eyes searching a mansion for pieces of an urn. It was one of the first home video games to feature scrolling graphics. And as it's Halloween this week, we were in a spooky mood.
Now, next week's show is one you definitely won't want to miss, because after various installments in the franchise, the Assassin's Creed series finally gets its number 3.
Medal of Honor Warfighter takes us into real-world conflicts.
And if that's not enough, we bring you one of the most anticipated games of the year, Halo 4.
And Goose takes us on a very special backwards compatible that has required the entire combined resources of the ABC and also wiped out our budget for the rest of the year.
Yes, he's turned into a kind of crazed Orson Welles or something. Over on Spawn Point on ABC3, we'll have a look at Harry Potter and see if he can bring any magic to the Kinect.
Until then, gamers, Barjo out.
Hex out.